Yo, what is up guys? Draco Sean here, back with another video, chapter 1182. Let's get to it. So obviously we start with this chapter. I would say this chapter is one of those slow burner chapters. Nothing really getting me off my seat personally, but it is what it is. We move forward. Not much happening in terms of story progression. It's just we're moving the plot a little bit. We got some very interesting lore reveals in this chapter, so we're going to touch those later in the video, but obviously we'll start off with the small stuff, I think. So I think we can all agree now, we know who Zoro and Sanji are going to fight. I think if it wasn't obvious before, it's definitely obvious now. Zoro is definitely going to fight Summers, and I think Killingham is definitely going to fight Sanji. So we know our matchups at least. And look, I think there's been this whole debate about the Straw Hats and what the other Straw Hats are going to be able to do, and it's just revolved around Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, and I think that's true. I think the one Straw Hat who needs a damn fight or some moment is Usopp, because I'm sick of people talking about this whole Usopp quote that he said like, and I can't believe one stupid quote from Usopp and every One Piece guy is losing their mind. As about, wow, Usopp was the one who caused Imu to come out of his seat and fight in the to fight in Elbaf. And Usopp was the one who's caused all of this. I'm just like, what are we, is this really what the One Piece fandom has come to now? Or we're just giving Usopp anything? So Usopp needs a moment. I don't know if he's gonna fight a God Knight, but look, we'll see what happens. Maybe he might fight Summers, I don't know. But because Summers it's almost kind of implied like out of the three main God Knights here, out of Gonko, Summers, and Killingham, I think Summers is the main one, because we know Summers is also part of the old generation of God Knights, because he was there obviously 38 years ago at God Valley. So he's also one of those guys. But I think, look, we'll see how the fights go with Zoro and Sanji. I think the God Knights, where do I view them as villains? I mean, One Piece isn't known to produce some of the best villains ever, but again, the Celestial Dragons are pure villains. That's just a fact. They're irredeemable villains. You can't redeem these characters. They're pure villains. I actually like Summers as a villain personally, but in terms of where they stand, look, they're gonna lose. I think we can all agree. There's no way they're gonna beat Zoro and Sanji. I will be very surprised if they beat Zoro and Sanji. That would be the biggest twist Oda would give me, but I doubt that's gonna happen because it's Zoro and Sanji, and Oda won't make them lose. And look, all I can say for this arc is because Imu has turned up personally, it gives me a little bit of hope that the Straw Hats are not just gonna walk out of this scot-free without any injuries, without any consequences, without any stakes or tension, because I just want, as a viewer and for the benefit of the story, I just want stakes and tension in this arc. So look, we'll see where that goes, but I'm hoping for a good fight, and I'm hoping just for a good resolution to those fights as well, so we'll see. The next thing to point out, I think, is Biblo the Owl, who, again, he's one of those mysterious characters. I'm going to theorize that he's basically a giant. He's a big owl as well, by the way. He's a massive owl. He's literally this, in his owl form, he's literally the size of a giant. And I think he has eaten a devil fruit, if I'm not mistaken. There's obviously more to him. I don't know if he's maybe part of the Void Century, potentially, because he's obviously a guy who holds information, and one of the biggest reveals in the One Piece world is the Void Century, so I wouldn't be surprised if Biblo knows about that, potentially. And maybe he might tell us some more information about the Void Century, but because Imu is here now, he's kind of given us the little teasers for the Void Century. But anyway, yeah. So those are the small things in this chapter, really. And obviously we get some of the other Straw Hats. We're seeing Bonnie and Lilith, I should say. We're seeing the other Straw Hats, so they're all doing their own thing. I think Usopp is the one Straw Hat who just needs a moment. That's all he needs. I don't know what Gonko's going to do. I think Gonko, we can all agree, is going to turn on Imu eventually, and I don't know if that means Gonko's going to get killed, but we'll see. But let's get to the main stuff now. So obviously Imu and Loki still continuing their fight, and it honestly feels like we're watching two heavyweights just going at it. It's like, because I watch boxing, right? And it just feels like I'm watching two heavyweights just going at it. And potentially we're looking at probably the two strongest people in the world fighting each other. I mean, people have Loki stronger than all the current or old generation of pirates. That includes Roger, Whitebeard, Garp, and I don't know, Shiki, Shanks, even potentially. We don't know what happened between him and Shanks still. We still need to find that out, by the way. But I think Loki right now holding his own against Imu for me is incredible. But one thing that Imu mentions in this chapter, which I find really fascinating, is he mentions that the Nidhogg was a traitor. And we don't know too much about what, the giant of the past, because remember we found out that the giant of the past who wielded the Nidhogg fruit and had Ragnir, he was fighting against the sun god, which we know is Joy Boy. So we're going to assume that Joy Boy had a rival at the time, which was him. And it's interesting because we don't know who Joy Boy's rival was, because again, Joy Boy has obviously David E. Jones, there's Emu. I mean, this guy as well potentially was in the mix as well. We don't know much about the giants who wielded this fruit in the past, but he was fighting toe-to-toe with the sun god, so he was clearly a big deal. But one thing that was mentioned was that he was a traitor. So this kind of implies that this guy was aligned, or maybe Elbaf itself was aligned with the world government at the time, at 800 years ago. And then they turned on the world government, and then they joined forces with Joy Boy, I'm going to assume, but we don't know. But I think that's an interesting quote by Emu, calling him a traitor. Because when you're calling someone a traitor, it means they were on your side and they've turned their back on you. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. But again, he's holding his own in the fight, Loki, so we'll see what happens. I'm going to assume Loki's going to lose. I think there's no way Loki's beating Emu, because if that was the case, the story's over. And we know there's way more to beating Emu, because Rox needed 2 devil fruits to beat him. So anyway, we'll find out with that. And I'm sure Luffy's going to fight Emu as well very soon as well. So we're going to get those matchups very soon. And the next big thing is the Rain God, which I think has been a massive talking point. And it's so cool now that the line from Skype here about the 4 gods, the Sun God, Rain God, Forest God, and Earth God now is really coming to light. So I think those theories now are all to play for. Now, obviously, I've heard about the Chopper theory, which, look, I mean, if this is a way to give Chopper something, fair enough, but I mean, it just feels so cheap and easy. I feel like with Chopper, I always say Chopper's backstory is one of the most underrated backstories. I think it's a really damn good backstory. It's a really emotional backstory, I think. It's up there, definitely. Not as much emotional as Kuma's personally, or even the God Valley stuff, but I think it's definitely up there. But yeah, I mean, look, we'll see. But we get in this chapter, we find out more about the Rain God. Now, it's interesting what Killingham says, because Killingham's ability, we know, is dreams, and he can create your greatest fears. But we actually now found out his greatest fear, and his greatest fear was the Rain God, apparently, which is interesting because it's one of the 4 gods. And remember, the Celestial Dragons do not like the Sun God. They don't like Nika. Every time when Emu hears it, or when the Gorosei were talking about the Devil Fruit, obviously they were losing their mind. And the same thing applies to this, obviously. And this makes me question who the other 2 fruits are. And a lot of people have been theorizing potentially that the fruit that whoever's the Rain God right now, people are saying it's Dragon. Now, that is a very strong possibility, because we know Dragon is the most wanted man in the world, and the world government want to bring Dragon. They want to take in Dragon. Dragon's more wanted than any of the 4 emperors, and a lot of people say it's just because he's targeting the world government, which is true. But there is more to Dragon. There's so much mystery around Dragon. We're getting details of his past now, especially with the God Valley stuff and the Kuma flashback. But there's obviously some missing gaps there. And I think when we get those and we find out more about his abilities, because we know his abilities are weather, rain related. So I do wonder if he does have that fruit potentially. And we don't know if it's a Logia. Is it going to be a mythical zone? I'm going to assume it's a mythical zone, but who knows? But and we find out the Rain God's name is Zaza, which is interesting, because we have Nika the Sun God, and we have Zaza the Rain God. I wonder what the other gods are called. I'm assuming we're going to find those out very soon, I have a feeling. And I wonder if these are characters that are going to be alive. And I do wonder also that is the man marked by flames, or maybe Dragon doesn't have the fruit, or the Rain God fruit, but maybe the man marked by flames has this Devil fruit. Because remember, the man marked by flames is known to suck people in whirlpools, and this could lead to, I don't know if it ties into the whole rain thing, because maybe this guy has the powers to control the weather potentially, like Dragon, or he can control water, which is crazy, obviously. But yeah, I think for me right now, we are witnessing something interesting now about the gods now, of the One Piece world now, which, again, this is all important lore, obviously. But it's interesting to know that the Celestial Dragons know a lot about the gods, and the 4 gods that were mentioned in Skype here, obviously, are now coming to fruition. And we don't know who the other 2 gods are, the Forest God and the Earth God. I don't know who they could possibly be, but I do wonder what kind of roles they're going to play, obviously, because these are obviously important figures, and I think we have to go back to that the mural as well, with all the figures and all the drawings. I think I'm going to have to look at that again and examine what I missed. But it's cool seeing that, and it's also interesting that it's implied that Killingham might not even be able to control his greatest fear, which that just says a lot how much these celestial dragons fear the gods. Even though these are gods themselves, they fear the actual gods. The sun god, the rain god, the earth god, the forest god. Even though they haven't really mentioned the forest god and earth god, I'm assuming we're going to hear those very soon as well. I don't know what this means now. Obviously, we're going to see, I don't know if they're going to have to team up, if people are going to have to team up to fight this thing. I mean, it's not the actual rain god, because obviously this is just Killingham's memory, obviously. So it's not the actual thing, obviously. So we'll see where that goes. But anyway, sum up the chapter. I think it was a good chapter. We'll see where the next chapter goes. I am working on a video actually to do this week, and I'm excited to drop it, obviously. We'll see where that goes. But anyway, yeah, that's the chapter. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out. Have a good day.